Welcome into Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and day one of the Nick Caley era as your offensive coordinator. We have some hot rumors to go on this Tuesday morning. The Texans, are they in on Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver from the LA Rams, who just was able to request for a trade? Jerrod Johnson, is he staying in Houston as the QB coach? And are the Texans making the move of the offseason, trading for Myles Garrett? Somebody thinks so. I'll give you my take on that at the end of the program. But I want to get the good vibes going. First day of Texans football under Nick Caley as the OC. I want to send all of the good vibes I possibly can. So I'll say this. Every like on today's video equals another passing yard for CJ Stroud. So if we get 1,000 likes, that means he's going to throw for 1,000 yards next season. 2,000 likes, he's going to throw for 2,000 yards next season. 10,000 likes, he's breaking the NFL record, and he's slinging the pill for 10,000 yards next season. So if you want CJ Stroud to ball out, go down and hit that thumbs up icon and like today's video. So let's get into the first storyline. The Texans, are they eyeing Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver from the LA Rams? I'm going to give this one 2 Toro heads, and if you're new to the program, basically it's 1 to 4 or 2. I'm giving it about a 50% chance because after, everything that's happened this season with the Rams and Cooper Kupp and all of his injuries, looks like those two are parting ways. A lot of rumors that the Rams and Kupp could be officially done. They went ahead and granted Kupp the ability to go out and seek trades. The Texans, they just hired Nick Caley, who was the tight end coach, pass game coordinator for the LA Rams. So he's obviously very familiar with one Mr. Kupp. And I just know the Texans, they're down on wide receivers. They have 2 guys who got injured last year. One of them a free agent, one who's probably not going to be back this season, and Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. Does that open the door to somebody like a Cooper Kupp making his way down to Houston? If you look at his stats over the past 4 years, not bad. I mean, obviously, the Triple Crown winner in 2021 was arguably one of the best, if not the best, statistical years for a receiver in NFL history, but has had a ton of trouble staying on the field the past 3 seasons. 9 games, 12 games, 12 games the past 3 seasons, respectively. I don't know what the future holds for Cooper Kupp, and you know what? I'll give my take on it in just a moment, but I want to ask the folks at home first. What do you say? Should the Texans go after Cooper Kupp this offseason? Give me a yes, give me a no, give me your reasoning down in the comment section. If you get hit with the YouTube ad break here, perfect timing, scroll on down and give me your answer on whether or not the Texans should go after Cooper Kupp this offseason. I would only be in if the Rams end up cutting Cooper Kupp because that contract is not very team friendly. Going to be around a $20 million cap hit next season for a team if they trade for Cooper Kupp and his contract. I would much rather the Texans go out and sign this man in free agency and maybe bring that cap hit down just a little bit because he does come with a lot of concerns and worries. He's already 32, or he's going to be 32 by the time that the season starts. And as I showed you, he has a ton of injury history. And if the Texans are looking to sign an injured older player, I would much rather than just run it back with Stephon Diggs. He already has the familiarity with CJ Stroud. He already is comfortable in Houston. Had a good start to last season. I would much rather roll the dice on Stephon Diggs than Cooper Kupp, in my opinion. But if Kupp is willing to take a little bit less, or maybe around that same price point once he's cut, then we'll have a discussion. But at this moment, I'm leaning more Stephon Diggs than I am Cooper Kupp if the Texans are going to bring in an older, maybe like a veteran wide receiver this next season. Now, next story on today's show, Jerrod Johnson. I actually have some news on him, just broke before the filming of today's video. I'll tell you what it is in just a moment, but couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Prize Picks. They make daily fantasy sports easy, ladies and gentlemen. It is the best place to win real money action this sports season, regardless of what sport. You're talking football, basketball, baseball, hockey. They got it all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 1,000 times your cash on Prize Picks. The big game, it's almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, and it's right here. Mr. Patrick Mahomes, all he has to do is have one passing yard in the big game, and you're a winner chicken dinner. Pair him with another stat projection, and you're going to get a ton of cash during the big game. So don't miss out. Don't walk, run over to Prize Picks and download the app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Like I said, sign up today. All you got to do, use that code CLNS, $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. That, my sir, is guaranteed. So go down and download that app today. All the links are going to be in the comment section and description of today's video. Go get started with America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there in Prize Picks. Run your game. I'm going to give it 4 Toro heads because right before filming, we just got a report from my man Aaron Wilson. Shout out to you, Mr. Wilson, that this was from yesterday, that there's not supposed to be any changes to, not supposed to be a ton of changes to the offensive staff, I would say. But then he came out with another report today saying that it is expected that Jerrod Johnson will be returning to the Houston Texans next season. Now, I don't know if he gets a, title bump, maybe a pass game coordinator, maybe something else, but really good news for the Texans if this comes to be true. He's expected to return to the H. He interviewed for the Jets and Raiders OC jobs this past offseason and was also in strong consideration for the Texans OC job before they offered it to Nick Caley. And a lot of people credit Stroud's early success to this man right here, Jerrod Johnson. I think that is great news for Houston because the ability to bring in a new guy like Nick Caley, it's going to make a lot of turnover, a lot of changes to the offense in essence, right? New guy, he's going to want new verbiage, bring in some new schemes, some new concepts into the offense. But at least for CJ Stroud, he gets somebody who he's familiar with, who he trusts, who he really adores and cares for in Jerrod Johnson. He has had nothing but glowing remarks for Johnson, who he first met at Elite 11 camps whenever he was still in high school. So their lineage kind of runs all the way back to whenever CJ, before he even played at Ohio State. So I think this is great news for the Texans, great news for CJ Stroud, that he gets a little bit of the new, but he gets to keep a little bit of the old as well, because a lot of people were worried. What does this mean for CJ Stroud with a new offensive coordinator? Will he have that continuity? Will he have that success, kind of that rhythm that he had with Jerrod Johnson and some other guys in this coaching staff? Now it looks like we won't have to worry about that. We get a new offensive coordinator, but still keep some of the old coaching staff. Now, I just really want to keep an eye out for that O-line coach, because it's been rumored Cole Popovich, who was the assistant O-line coach for the Texans this year, could be in line to just get promoted to that job. I'm really interested to see what they do with that, position coach, because the O-line was the biggest problem last year. How are they going to fix it going into this next season? Now, lastly, I got to talk about this on today's show. The Texans, could they be trading for Myles Garrett? The Brown superstar requested a trade yesterday. I'm going to call this fake news. No way the Texans are trading for Myles Garrett. Get out of here. I mean, come on, really? You think with where the Texans are at right now and with where their roster's at, they're like, you know what we need? Myles Garrett. I don't think so. This is what a Yardbarker article had to say. They actually had the Texans as the #1 destination for Myles Garrett, which is just wild. But this is what they had to say. A homecoming could be in order for the Arlington Texans native Garrett. After winning the AFC South in back-to-back seasons, the Texans could be aggressive in the offseason as they look to upgrade from a playoff contender to a championship-caliber team. With 13 draft picks at their disposal over the next 2 years, the Texans could realistically drum up a trade package to acquire the Browns star. This makes zero sense. And I'm telling you this right now, whoever wrote this article has not ever stepped a foot inside of Texas if they're saying the hometown native for Arlington. Do you know how far Arlington is away from Houston? It's about a 5, maybe 6 hour drive depending on traffic. On the East Coast, that's going through 2 or 3 different states. You're saying that you're native? What? No, you're not. He's not from Houston. He's from Arlington. That's North Texas. That's a 6-hour drive. What are we talking about? And where the Texans are at right now, I mean, pushing apart that side where obviously the writer of the article has zero common sense, does not know what he's talking about. You also have 2 edge rushers already on the roster that you think of as star players in Danielle Hunter and in Will Anderson Jr., who Will Anderson Jr. is going to be due up for a contract in just a couple seasons. And then Danielle Hunter, I think he gets an extension this offseason to help out the Texans cap a little bit, push some of his money down the road. I don't see the fit at all with the Texans. They already have 2 premier edge rushers. What, you're just going to run, 4 DNs out there all the time? I mean, it makes no sense. Obviously, Garrett is a great player, and the Texans defense would be better if Myles Garrett was on it. But does it make sense also trading for that guy when you know you're going to have to pay him a ton of money? You're already paying Danielle Hunter a good contract, and then you're going to pay another you're going to have, 40% of your salary cap to 3 defensive ends? Makes no sense. And whenever I look at the latest Myles Garrett trade odds, it just doesn't ring a bell to me. It just doesn't, where the Texans fit in compared to any of these teams doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The Cowboys, currently the favorite, the Commanders, then you have the Chiefs, the Raiders, Niners, Eagles, Bills, and Packers. All these teams make a lot more sense to me to trade for Myles Garrett, to give up all those assets and those picks than the Houston Texans. It just seems like the Texans are in no position to make this type of move this offseason. Now, after seeing the top teams, the top possible destinations for Myles Garrett, give me your prediction in the comment section. Where do you think Myles Garrett plays next season? My prediction coming up in just one moment. I have a funny feeling that he ends up in Philly next season. Howie Roseman's a magician. Josh Sweat, who's one of their defensive ends, one of their starters, is going to be a free agent. You have Brandon Graham, who's an aging guy. I don't know what the future holds for him. The Eagles have a need at defensive end, and knowing Howie Roseman and how he deals picks, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles trade a first and a second for Myles Garrett this offseason. We saw it. They've done it before with, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They traded for him from the Saints. A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. Brandon Brooks, they traded from the Houston Texans. Whenever, I was just a young kid growing up watching this team, Howie Roseman is able to make these kinds of deals in the offseason. So it just does feel right that he could make a monumental move like this, even after the Eagles appear in a Super Bowl. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. Make sure you hit that sub button. Stay in the know for all the latest around the Houston Texans all year long. We'll be having more free agency coverage, more draft coverage, more trade coverage all year long. We are your one-stop shop for Texans news and rumors.